have one one competition between that.
Yeah.
So I guess it's the whole year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I guess you could say the same for bodybuilding in the sense that it's like right now I'm preparing for a competition, but it's like
way down the line.
It's way down the line. So right now I'm focusing on putting on muscle, whereas like the actual what's considered prep would be like cutting back calories, cutting fat, that sort of thing. Ready to go?
I guess so, yeah.
I guess so.
As ready as I'll ever be.
True. Alright guys, welcome back. Long time no see. I haven't done a podcast in, since probably July.
Keeping the fans waiting.
Yeah, keeping the fans waiting for this one. So we're coming back with a bang. Special guest here, Chris Coady. I've known Chris for, a number of years now. We did our degree together. He's competed with my brother in karate for years. So yeah, today we're just going to kind of talk about, his background in sport, his prep for competition, how that relates to bodybuilding, and kind of his plans for the future and all that sort of stuff. So Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And so my name's Chris. Like Ryan said, we did our degree together, so we know each other for a number of years then. And then I know Ryan's brother John actually even longer than you. I've known John since he was a kid, really. Yeah. So I started karate when I was 5. Started really taking it seriously when I made my first Atlantic team when I was 11. So it was when you travel to the Atlantic Championships. Yeah. And then my first provincial team I made when I was 14. And then that same year, I made the national team for the first time. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So I was on the provincial team and the national team the same amount of years, actually. Every year I was on the provincial team, I was on the national team. I made it every year. That's nuts. So I was grateful in that sense, and I was lucky a little bit. But, so I guess competition-wise, I'm 4-time national champion, 4-time vice. No big deal. Threw 1 bronze medal in there, too. I've been to 7 Pan American Championships, a World Championship. 3 U.S. Opens, 3 Junior International Cups. Threw a couple of medals in there, here and there. Unreal. I think the best I ever did worldwide, ranking-wise, I think at one point I was number 8. That's crazy. That was the best one. Yeah, I think that was when I was 16 or 17. That's crazy. So I've been at it a long time. And I actually just retired last year, just over a year ago. Wow. Yeah. You've seen your fair share of competition. I've been around, man. Yeah, you've been around. I think it's like 15 countries. That's crazy. Yeah, that's so cool, though. 15 countries. What an experience. So when did you start to take karate seriously? Well, actually, I can pinpoint it to even a night. Really? So I was, my brother did it, and he was on the provincial team. So is your brother older? Yes. Yeah, he's 27. So he's 5 years older than me. Yeah. I was on the Atlantic team, like I said, which was basically Newfoundland used to send a big group to the Atlantic Championships, which is just the 4 Atlantic provinces, obviously. Right. Us, PEI, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. In my first year, I made it when I was 11. And then I believe it was that same year, we had a camp here. We invited one of the national team members. She's from New Brunswick. Her name is Campbell. She's been on the team. She's I wouldn't even venture to guess. Definitely over 15 years, I would say. Wow. Yeah, I would say she's been on there. It's definitely over 15. Yeah. And she's still on the team now. Crazy. But anyway, so she came in for a clinic with her coach. Yeah. And she walked in, and back then the jackets it was a big white jacket. Yeah. And it had in big red letters Canada on the back, and then it had the Karate Canada logo on the chest. And she walked in, and we did the clinic, and then that weekend I told my mom I was going to get one of those jackets. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. I feel like that's such a big thing, playing sports. It's you're oh, I want to wear that jersey, I want to wear that jacket. There's just a sort of respect that comes with that as well, and it's just
That's just so cool.
Yeah,
just having Canada on your back. It's just like
exactly right.
Yeah,
I seen it and I wanted it, and like that weekend was like, yeah, I can do this. You know.
How
like
old were you then?
I was 11 or 12.
Okay,
yeah.
Sick. And then you continued to compete until.
My last competition was the August of 2019. That was my last Junior Pan Ams.
Okay.
And I didn't make the World Championship team for that October, so then I didn't know it was going to be my last competition.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff led me to making the decision to retire that February.
Gotcha.
And then COVID hit, so it was,
yeah.
I only officially am like off the team as of like a few months ago because they didn't have a team for so long.
Okay,
So.
Like all sports, I guess it was just kind of out of commission for a while. Like,
yeah,
no one was
sure.
really doing anything. Do you want to talk about why you stopped, or?
Yeah, I mean we can kind of get into it. You know, I don't like. So it's been a long time coming, I think.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily by choice. Now there were some aspects like school wise.
Yeah.
It was getting hard to juggle that because I mean training. I mean you know how hard training is just in the gym alone, but then you throw your sport specific practices on top of that.
100%.
I was a full-time student training like 25 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have time to breathe, let alone.
And you were working and
I was full-time. Well, not full-time job, but part-time job. So yeah, and my job, I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So like I literally had
no social life.
No social life whatsoever.
Yeah, that's hard, man.
Yeah. So basically, there's some politics that got in the way. Without getting too deep into it, there's just some. I wasn't seeing eye to eye with some of the coaches here, and the politics got in the way of it, and I kind of just fell out of love with the sport because of it. You know, I didn't want to. It was like a battle just to even try and continue here. So I just thought it was best for me to step away at that time.
No, 100%, man. 100%. I feel like that's the best thing to do. Like when your heart's not in it, it's just like it's better to kind of throw in the towel. Like leave off on somewhat of a good foot and.
Yeah. So it was like I was set on. Because that would have been my first year where I was only a senior athlete. Now, obviously, we didn't know COVID was coming.
Yes, yeah.
But at the time, I was set on making another stab and another run at the seniors. And actually, in December of 2019, so there's a few months after, I got an email from the Canadian Olympic Committee. And apparently the coaches on karate, like the head coaches for Karate Canada, put my name forward as a potential athlete for Tokyo 2020.
Wow.
Now, deep down, I kind of knew that I was a bit unrealistic for me at the time, and I knew that I had a lot going on and I wouldn't have been able to make it. But just to be named in that list of athletes as a potential athlete to go to Tokyo
that's crazy,
was just like,
dude. That's so cool.
That was an honor in itself.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%,
just to know that someone out there was thinking like,
this kid's about it. Yeah,
we got to think about this guy too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so get back to the story. Yeah, I wasn't seeing eye to eye with it, and with the coaches, and just thought that I don't want to fight to do something that I love to do.
No, totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good.
I thought for me it was time just to step away.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm done forever, but for foreseeable future, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. And it's hard to get away with that, especially in like any like high level sport. There's going to be politics, and especially in such a small province too, which just makes it like very very much more apparent.
Yeah, the community is small here,
and you got to deal with it face to face then.
Yeah,
right. So there's no way like kind of around it. So yeah.
So yeah, I just basically just felt I wasn't getting my fair shake. I wasn't being treated as I thought I should be.
Yeah.
And as if I was in their position, how I would treat one of my athletes.
Yeah.
Especially an athlete that's I don't want special treatment.
Right.
But you got to realize I was on the national team for 6 years.
Yeah.
Multiple time national champion. Been on the national team for 6 years and the provincial team that same amount of time.
Yeah.
So I was well established, and I just
100%.
thought there's a certain degree of allowance that you need to give an athlete like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't looking for special treatment,
No.
but I was looking for, you know,
to be treated like, you know, with the experience that you had.
Yeah. If I wanted some extra training time and I wanted access to a facility,
yeah,
I wasn't allowed to have it.
Yeah.
Which is just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're a pro bodybuilder and you walk up to the owner of a gym and be like, hey, I'm getting ready for, I don't know, Olympia in a few months. Like, do you think you could open up the gym for me or give me a key in the morning? Like, I'll still pay. I'll still do whatever it is I got to do.
Yeah.
I just want some extra training.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
think
100%.
that somewhere along the line, someone's going to, you know, help you out a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Because there's obviously a handoff in that too, because with you competing at such a high level, that's, you know, heightening their name. Like, oh, this is who's training them. Like, they must be doing something right. So by you just competing and being good at what you do, you're bringing them up as well.
Absolutely.
So there's, yeah, I agree with you, man. There should definitely be some give there.
And this is the first time I've actually talked about it openly, like, with anybody.
Yeah.
Besides, like, my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I don't talk about it often because I just hate. Like, I think politics has no room in sport at all.
No, I agree.
I think that everything should be surrounding the athlete. And I'm a coach myself. Like, I work at the NL High Performance Center, strength coach with all of our provincial teams and all the Canada Games teams. And the athlete comes first. You know what I mean? Like, whatever they need, we provide for them.
100%.
And help them get to whatever level it is they want to achieve, or
you
know, whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's their career, right? It's,
absolutely, right?
There can be a lot riding on that. So in terms of like competition, I mean, we've talked prior to this about, you know, there's a lot of prep that goes into your competition as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to talk about that a little bit, like?
Yeah, sure. So basically, depending on the tournament, you know, the big ones for me were the national championships every year, because that was your ticket to be on the team, for the national team for that year.
So just use that as an example.
Yeah. So for, let's say if we had a tournament like the nationals is in March.
Yeah.
You know, but you're always training for these big tournaments. You're never, you know, taking weeks off at a time, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael Phelps has a good analogy that I picked up on when I was pretty young still, is that, like, he said he was a swimmer 24/7, and that doesn't mean he was training literally 24/7.
Yeah.
And he was never doing anything, you know, to harm that. But, like, the way he talks about his 24/7 mentality is that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everything I do, I ask myself, is this going to make me a better swimmer?
Yeah.
And then if
100%.
the answer is no, then he doesn't do it.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, the end goal.
Yeah.
And for those guys, it was, you know, 4-year Olympics for every 4 years, so they were thinking like that. But for me, it was that, you know, months before the competition. So specific prep will probably start, you know, maybe 3 months before.
Okay.
So we have the nationals in March. Atlantics were probably in October.
Right.
That was usually like the beginning area where you really start to hone in.
Yeah.
And focus on, you know, what needs to be adjusted. And then somewhere in January, I would start my weight cut a little bit, just gradually.
Okay.
And then probably if, you know, let's say first week of March, last week of February is like hard weight cut time. And then hopefully you arrive either just a few pounds overweight, you can sweat it out, or you're on weight. Okay. Yeah. Now, toward the latter end of my career, I went to a weight class where I didn't have the cut, but for a long time I used to cut a lot of weight. Really? A lot of weight. Yeah.
Like, what is a lot of weight?
So I remember my very first Pan Am. So the trick is, like, growing up doing it and being a teenager, at some point you're gonna grow. Yeah. Right. So 2014, the nationals were in January. I weighed 62 kilos, so I used to fight in a minus 63. You know, it was perfect. Yeah. Made it for the national team first time, and then somewhere around April, I grew like 4 or 5 inches. Jesus. Yeah. And then in, I think it was July-ish. Yeah. So Pan Am's were in August. July, I weighed like 70 kilos. 7 kilos overweight. Jeez. Which is, wow, like 16 pounds.
So if you qualify at 63, do you have to compete at 63?
Yeah, you have to compete in whatever you qualify for.
So they wouldn't be like, oh, he grew.
No.
No, wow.
Right? So my first Pan Ams, I cut like 15 pounds as like a 15-year-old is just not good. Like
That's
I wouldn't
crazy.
recommend it for anybody, but
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the game, right?
Yeah, totally.
And as you get older, that issue kind of becomes a little bit less.
Yeah.
You kind of figure out where your body sits naturally.
Yeah.
Your body's a little more accustomed to dropping and adding weight.
Yeah.
And also I was a little bit smarter when I was older, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I wasn't just starving myself hoping I'd make it and not drinking water, you know what I mean? Like I had a plan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's good, man. So, like, in terms of the weight cut, like, how much are you cutting throughout that whole 12 weeks? Or is there, like, a certain time when you're like, okay, now my meal plan kicks in, my diet kicks in, or you're upping cardio, or, like...
Yeah, so I think it's kind of based on the person. I know me personally.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 months, so let's say 6 weeks before the competition.
Yeah.
I'd start cutting weight.
Right.
Just starting to, reduce the calories a little bit. And lose it slowly. And then maybe a week, like the week before is when like the last few pounds had to come off. And those were the hardest ones.
Right, yeah.
And I used to always do it just water weight, just because that's the easiest way for a fighter to do it.
Yeah.
It works the best, because you could drop it quick, put it back on quick.
Yeah.
Now it sucks, it's definitely no fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't say like you would be doing it for the full 12 or whatever weeks. Like you might start a little bit.
Yeah.
But I found like I could drop it pretty quick. So like I used to probably start maybe 6 weeks out, start cutting weight a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, because I was never,
overweight or anything like that.
Super overweight. You know what I mean? Like if you're not 35 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be 15. Like
Yeah.
you usually walk around 15 to 20 pounds over your weight. At most.
Right. Because you guys, I guess when you're in your training, like throughout the entire year, it's like heavily like cardio based as well. So you guys,
there's so much, right?
Yeah. So there's not really. I doubt there's many people that do karate that are just overweight. You know. What
yeah.
I mean? So
you're not doing karate and just hitting the weights every day and no cardio. Right?
Yeah.
Just the training alone was super cardio based. I mean, you've probably seen John fight before.
Oh yeah.
Just hopping around.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like it's intense.
Yeah, I'd never be able to do that. But like in terms of bodybuilding, so obviously like for a bodybuilding show, it's based solely on how you look. So in terms of like diet's pretty much the main thing in a prep. Mm-hmm. So I mean a general prep will be like probably 16 weeks. But at 16 weeks, like that's when your diet's starting. So you want to gradually cut weight you want to do it as slowly as possible so you can hold on to as much muscle as possible. So I'm sure like I find when I get down to like the lower body fat percentages, I'm having to cut quicker. I notice my performance in the gym goes down. I feel a lot weaker. You find the same thing with your training, like
totally.
When you're getting down, getting down there, you're like, man, this sucks.
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely not as fun. But that's the other thing. Like, I'm sure. Like, I've never done it, so I don't really know. But posing looks hard.
Yeah.
But like, I feel there's a difference in being like having to pose very well. Like, you guys have to perform to a certain extent. Yeah. And then going in, say my sport, and having to like fight someone. You know what I mean? Yeah. The performance, like the amount you're asking your body is a little bit different, I feel. Yeah. You know what I mean? And your posing routine lasts how long?
Like a minute.
A minute? Yeah. And how many times do you do it, roughly?
Probably twice.
Okay, so at my biggest tournament was 2017 Nationals. Yeah. I was in 3 divisions. Yeah. Each fight was 3 minutes, and I had like something like 18 fights. Dude. Right? So it's, that's crazy. Just the sheer amount of ask from your body is just so much more that you can't afford to cut that much weight because your performance is going to be terrible. And then also, like, sure, if you cut a lot of water weight and you're really dehydrated, your brain gets dehydrated. Yeah. And then you're not 100 times, I'm exaggerating, but you're way more likely to get a concussion. Right, yeah. Right? Because your brain is not operating how it should. 100%. Right? And that was a very big thing that we had to consider as well. Yeah. A thing I'll mention too, so for my last show this summer, I competed in 4 divisions. So I did the natural men's physique, the open men's physique, and then the natural classic physique, and open classic physique. So across all of those, I had to go out and do what's called like mandatories. Like you go through your mandatory poses, and that's when the judge kind of gets a good look at comparing competitors.
So I had to do that for all 4 classes. And then I had to do my posing routine for all 4 as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of something that set me back in that show, is because in one of the very first like call outs, like the very first time I had to go up and pose, the judges made us hold our poses for like super long. Mm-hmm. So being at that like low body fat percentage, like I barely had anything in me to flex. And when they're making you like stay up there and hold those poses, like it was just exhausting. And like by the time I got to like my last category, I was just drained. I was like, it's just hard to hold the poses. I'm sure, as you knew, like when you got to your last fight, it was like you were probably drained. Like
my whole last division, I was dead. Like, my legs
I would say,
nothing
dude.
left.
Yeah,
right? It was a rough go, to say the least. And like I'm not sure what you guys do on a day to day in bodybuilding, like on the day of bodybuilding, but even like I was even eating during the division, like trying to like keep my carbs up and drinking, but like after a weight cut and then just the sheer amount of volume that I had that weekend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that last division was a rough one. yeah. Well,
that's the thing. Like they say, like in bodybuilding, if you're not ready like a week before the show, you're not going to be ready for the show. So like the thing is like for my show, I know I could have came in like fuller. So like I was super, super lean, but I didn't have enough carbs leading up to the show to actually like fill out my muscles. So no matter what I ate on the day of the show, it really wasn't going to make a difference because I couldn't eat enough that day to actually fill out my muscles. Yeah. So it's the same thing, like all day, like I was having meals, like I ate a ton of food on the show day. Yeah. But it just like in terms of one day, like you experience, like it's not enough. Like, yeah, if all those fights were like across a number of days and you were eating throughout those days and staying hydrated, like you probably would have been fine. Yeah. But in one day, all jam packed, it's just like, I can't do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. Like, you guys are competing like super dehydrated, right? Like on the stage, you guys are empty, right?
Yeah. So like I both the shows I've done, I cut water. So basically, leading up to it, probably I think 3 or 4 days out, like I'm drinking like 4 or 5 liters of water a day, anyways. Then it'll bump up to 6, and then 7 and 7, and then 8, and then you go up to 9, and then probably I think a day and a half before the show, you'll just completely cut all water. Okay. And what I did is I took a natural diuretic called Dandelion, which is just these little drops. Yeah. It tastes awful.
All the stuff does.
Yeah. But basically that just helped me cut water and dry out more. And I mean, the open guys, a lot of them will take diuretics, which again is just a more extreme to that to really dry out, and you can see the lines and the grain in the muscle. Yeah. So we're super dehydrated on stage, which is what makes it even more exhausting, like posing even harder. Because like I find when you're dehydrated, it's so hard to actually feel you like flex the muscle. Like it's hard to get that mind muscle connection because like you flex and it doesn't feel like you're flexing. Yeah. Right. So
that's a big difference when we would do a weight cut. Is that, you know, you guys are trying to get as much water out as possible, right? Because you want those clean lines and stuff. Yeah. With us, we're trying to keep as much as possible in, you know what I mean? Like, 100%. We try to get rid of the bare minimum. Yeah. So, like, you want to make weight by, like, 0.1 of a pound. Yeah. Like, you don't want to, like, like as soon as that number is below whatever your weight class is, you're good. And then, usually, you have the weigh-ins, like, probably a day or two before you'd even have the fight. So then we have a bunch of time to rehydrate and stuff. So as shitty as I probably felt fighting, and like the last division that I was talking about, that was like 4 or 5 days after my weigh-in. So probably 4 days after my weigh-in. So like I still felt that bad that long after I did a weight cut. Yeah. I can't imagine having a way worse weight cut and then holding that throughout, you know, a full competition for you guys, which is...
Yeah, you definitely feel it for a couple days after, and like my lower back, especially from posing, it was just sore for probably 3 days. Mm-hmm. Like it was just from being up on stage and like holding poses, it was really sore. One thing I never mentioned was, as you get bigger and like into more like the pro level, like bodybuilding, and even at amateur in certain divisions, there is weight classes. So you'll have a certain weight cap in, say, classic physique based on your height. Yeah. Just so like there's not like really short guys with a bunch of muscle who obviously will look better than like a tall guy with not as much muscle who weighs the same. So that's kind of how they even the playing field in classic. And I mean, like the open, like the big guys, like they can be as big as they want.
Yeah.
The other division is 212, which is like
there's like a weight cap division, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like,
so 212
shorter guys a little bit.
Yeah, that's 212. Okay. So their weight cap is 212, and so a lot of guys will like literally like just take a bunch of drugs and like cut heavy, like they'll cut muscle to meet this division and have as much muscle as possible. Because at the pro level, I mean, these guys already have enough muscle that like, you know, they're having to actually cut muscle to meet the weight cap. And it's similar to, I guess, karate or mixed martial arts, whereas like the weigh-ins will be the day before the show usually. The day before or 2 days before.
Okay.
So then these guys will have time to actually fill up and eat and look fuller. So they could, again, it'll be the same thing. It's like they're just going to want to make that weight cap. So then they can probably eat and put on 10 pounds just filling out, right? So it is similar when you get to certain levels in certain categories.
That's insane to me that those guys are 212. I watched like a little bit of the Olympia. My first time ever watching bodybuilding. Yeah. It was an experience. It was cool to watch. But like, I was looking at the guys that are 212. I know. Around the time, I was 212 at the time. I don't look like that.
No, I know, man. I don't know.
I don't know how they're 212.
I don't know how they pack that much muscle onto a frame and still like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, and there's some guys like Sean Clarita. He was the shorter black guy who came second in 212, and he was like 170 something, I think. And
that's
like,
insane.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
I don't know if it's the camera or not either. Like that makes those guys.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are like really short too. And the thing is like if all the guys are short, like you can't actually tell how short they are. You know what I mean? Because they're all relatively short. So it's like compared next to each other, it's like, oh, these guys are just average height, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, there's
you
no
see the guy
way.
giving the award out, coming out. And he's
He's looking down, handing it to him. It's hilarious, man. Yeah.
I was, so yeah, the Olympia, this past one, which is only not that long ago, right? It's only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, it was only a few weeks ago.
Yeah. It was my first time ever watching like any like actual bodybuilding events. And I was like, man, these guys are all huge.
It's
like,
crazy.
Even the smaller, like, I don't know what the divisions are, but the guys that wear the board shorts,
men's physique,
those guys were all huge too.
I know, it's crazy.
It's
crazy.
It's crazy to think that, you know, you can be that big and that lean.
Yeah. It's crazy too. Like men's physique doesn't have a weight cap, and I feel like in coming years they're probably gonna have to put some sort of weight cap on it because the men's physique guys are getting bigger than the classic physique guys because the classic guys have weight caps, but the men's physique guys, like obviously their lower bodies aren't comparable to classic, but their upper bodies, some of them are like twice the size of classic guys, and their shoulders are just like this big, and it's crazy. Like you'll put them next to like, you know, a classic physique guy, and you're like, there's no way. Like these men's physique guys are supposed to be like, you know, your good looking dude at the beach type of thing. Like that's kind of how it started out.
Yeah.
And it's just grown, and people are obviously just getting bigger and bigger just to try to win. And you know, there needs to be some sort of ceiling or limit to that, I feel.
Yeah, and like all things, like I feel like you gotta have those weight categories or like cuts and divisions, because I feel like you can get into a slippery slope where everybody starts looking the same. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Everybody's just huge.
Yeah, and that's what I think about like the open guys, like the big guys.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, not that they should put like a weight limit on it, but like that there should be some sort of like change in what they're looking for, because it seems like now it's just like in terms of judging, it's gone towards something that's like the bigger the better type of thing. It's just like
pure mass, eh?
Yeah, just pure mass. Whereas like, you know, like I know they have the classic physique division, which is more kind of aesthetically pleasing, like, you know, like kind of like the 90s Arnold era, that sort of thing. But now like these big guys is just kind of like just getting out of control, because the only thing they can do to win is like just get bigger. Okay, we're back. We're back. I think that just stopped. If not, there will be a dark screen and just audio for a little bit. But basically what we were saying, Chris was asking about like in terms of the weight categories for classic physique. So 212 is just everybody. The max is 212. For classic, it's based on height. So like, I think I'm 6'2", so in the Olympia, I think I could be like 250 pounds at stage weight. Mm-hmm. And so if someone's 6'1", they're allowed to be like 240. And as it goes down like an inch, I think it goes down like 10 pounds or something like that. Right?
So height really matters.
Height really matters in that. And obviously, like, you know, the taller you are, the more ideal it'll be because you can put on more size. Mm-hmm. Right? But then again, you know, if you're shorter, you can obviously make your weight look big.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah.
So for us, the weight divisions were, like, the smallest weight division was minus 60.
Okay.
Like, this is just for the, like, adult men's.
Right, yeah.
It's like minus 60 kg. Everything was kilos. And then it jumps to minus 67, and then minus 75, and then it was minus 84, which I did. I competed a long time at minus 84.
Yeah.
And that's when I used to have to do like a bit of a cut. Nothing crazy, but like a little bit of one. And then my last couple of years I did plus 84. So like after minus 84, it's plus 84. And sometimes the division was crazy. Like you'd have, like I'm 5'11", and at the time I probably weighed like 89, 90 kilos. But I could walk across the ring, and there could be a guy like 6'7" and like 110 kilos.
That's crazy,
right? Like I almost feel like they needed more divisions because you know judo has like 8 per side, and like boxing has like way more than that again. You know what I mean? Yeah. But where we only have 5, sometimes the mismatches were insane, and then you get big guys trying to cut down to smaller weights to have that advantage.
Yeah, for sure.
And you saw, like, I'm after seeing some rough weight cuts.
I would say, man. I would say. But the thing is, too, a lot of those guys probably lose a lot on performance where they're cutting so heavy.
But where karate is such a... It's only... So maybe I should get into the rules. So So the rules of karate are, like, we're not a full contact sport. It was point fighting, right? So, you know, there was never ever any full contact.
Right.
Now at the highest level, that rule kind of gets, like, put to the corner a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, the body shots were pretty well full contact. If you didn't break a rib, you're probably going to score your points. Yeah. And then to the face, it kind of depends. Like, if you drew blood, you were going to get a penalty.
Right.
Or if you, like, knocked someone out, obviously, like, you can't do that. But like, you can make some pretty solid contact. But the thing is, like, no one's worried about that because how hard you hit doesn't really matter. It's all about how quick you can hit.
Right.
And it's almost like extreme tag where you want to tag the other person before they tag you.
Okay.
Like to put it simply.
Yeah.
So the bigger guys always had, like, the bigger fast guys. So the guys that were big but could cut a good bit of weight, always had a bit of an advantage because it's all about reach.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, as long as you could get your opponent before they could get you.
Yeah.
Is kind of how it. It's kind of the advantage there. Now there's a million ways around that. I've after seen a lot of smaller guys beat a lot of bigger guys, and me being one of them. Like 5'11" in the plus 84 is like pretty short.
Right.
Like there were in the South American division, like on the Pan Am side, like most guys were like roughly, you know, between like 6'2", like 5'10".
Okay.
Now you had like a couple here and there, but the Europeans were all huge.
Wow.
Like, every single one of the European guys is massive.
That's crazy.
Ginormous. Like the world champion at the last World Championships, he's a German guy, and he's like 105 kilos, and he's like 6'5". Like, he was massive. Just
that's
like,
wild.
Huge, dude.
You wouldn't even be able to do anything. Like,
right?
Like, stand out. It's just like...
That's the thing. So, like, if I ever had to fight him, I would just hope that I could get in quicker than he could get me, and then I'd get him underneath, kind of like short guard. But, yeah, fighting someone like that would just be wild.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, you know, you need those extra divisions for guys that were like me, where I wasn't super tall, but I wasn't like super short, and I wasn't like super big, but I wasn't super lean. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that kind of middle area. That would have did me some good, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, my buddy, I think like the weight categories in karate seem to be similar to the ones in powerlifting, because it's the same thing. It'll be like, I don't know, like 63, 74, 84, and then it goes 93, and then I think it's 105, 120, and then like 120 plus.
Oh, okay.
So like they obviously have a few more in there, but then once you get up to like the kind of latter categories, it's like, you know, once you get up to 120, like those guys are obviously massive. And in powerlifting, most of the guys got big old guts. So it's like, but my buddy Cody, he competed recently, and he's like right on the line between, I think, like 105 and 93, and obviously there's like pretty big difference between those two categories. But he had to cut like a decent amount, because I think he was like 220 or something, and then he cut down to 93. So I think he cut like probably like 15, 20 pounds or something like that, and he ended up like being a lot weaker when he got to the platform because of that. So do you find that like in karate, like it's like by cutting so much it'll slow you down, because obviously speed is the biggest?
So it kind of, like, again, it kind of depends on the person. It kind of depends on like how well you can handle the cut. And if you have the cut, obviously, is a big factor.
Right.
But personally, like, I found doing the weight cut never ever affected like my speed or like my endurance. But I was just never strong. You know what I mean? Like I felt like weaker.
And did you just notice that in training? Like,
so like I wouldn't be able to lift quite as much.
Right.
But the other thing is, like, at the time, I didn't never have to lift very much.
It's not as important at that point.
Like, athletic training is not about, you know, heavy weight, high rep kind of thing. Like, it's just the way you train as an athlete. I mean, you know, you were an athlete. You were a hockey player for years, right? When you train as a hockey player, it's very different than if you train as a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, or just even like everyday training, like for health, right? It's very different. So I guess I kind of noticed it, but like not really at the same time. But that's just like my personal experience. Right?
Everyone's gonna be different. Cool, man. So what are your plans for the future? You're not doing karate anymore.
Nope. But so ever since I was a kid, like even before I even like kind of got into like really into karate, my dream has always been like to make it to the Olympics. And then, you know, I thought karate was going to be that route for so long, but like karate was never an Olympic sport. And then we made it for Tokyo 2020, and then now we're back out. So like all the guys that wanted, like, they're still like all my old teammates, like their Olympic dreams are done now if they didn't make 2020, right? Because they're out. But anyway, so yeah, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make it to the Olympics, and I'm still not giving up on that. And so have you ever heard of the RBC training ground like that? So like right now I'm kind of just hoping that through because I still train pretty intense all the time. And athletically I'm still pretty good, I think. So my hope is to kind of go through them and maybe get picked up by a national sports organization, or bobsled is the other one. It was a bit. Actually, I was talking to Luke. I was working with Luke at Iceberg, and I was just chatting with him. And he was like, "Yeah, so like, what do you do now?" And I was like, "Oh, like not a whole lot," because I was talking about karate and stuff. And he was like, and I kind of mentioned like the Olympic thing. And he was like, "Oh, cool." And he was like, "So like, you got any plans like to hopefully go for it?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I'm thinking bobsled." He's like, "That's not something you hear every day." I was like, I feel a little bit like crazy telling people that. But at the same time, like, everything's crazy when it's an idea, I guess.
No, 100%, man.
But so yeah, I've been training like a lot. A lot of my training has been training like a bobsledder. So I do a lot of sprint work, and then I also do like a lot of Olympic lifting, because bobsledders, are just really big sprinters. Right, and really powerful sprinters. So since I've retired, I've actually joined like the Mon track team, so I run track for Mon now.
Cool.
And I do a lot of Olympic lifting.
So why bobsled? Like, out of
it's a sport that a lot of people get into when whatever they're doing at first doesn't work out.
Interesting.
So like a lot of the best bobsledders that have ever come from Canada are like CFL guys that got injured and couldn't play anymore.
Wow, really?
Or like old track athletes that like retire from track and were like looking for something to do after.
Wow.
Right?
That's super cool though.
Yeah, like Jesse Lobstead, he's like one of the best brakemen to ever come from Canada.
Yeah,
and he's just a CFL guy who like had a bunch of injuries and like couldn't do it anymore, and then he was like gave the bobsled thing a try, and he won a couple Olympic medals.
That's crazy, dude. That's so cool.
So they just do like an open tryout. So basically, they have like these performance benchmarks.
Yeah.
In like
this is in the RBC training thing.
No, so bobsled does like their own combine.
Okay.
Every year. Now since COVID has happened,
yeah,
they haven't really been doing it, but so they kind of go to like around the country, like different spots. The closest one to here would be Halifax.
Yeah.
But anyway, they do like a kind of like a combine. Really, it's just they test your like sprint. They test like underhand medicine ball throw, so it's a 5 kilo ball.
Yeah.
You throw underhand. They test the 2 rep max front squat, and then I believe a 1 rep max power clean. It's like the test they do, and then also a standing broad jump. And then if you like make the benchmarks, they'll like invite you to the development camp, and then you just kind of like go up through that way. So to be honest, long story short, I have no idea what my plans are in the future. I'm just hoping that I find it along the way, aiming for one of these things.
That's usually the case, man. You just gotta shoot for the big goals, and then you find your way somewhere along the way, right?
So I have a question for you, actually. Like, when? So I mean, I didn't know you too well back then, but I knew you were big into hockey, and you're a big hockey player.
Yeah.
At what point did hockey stop becoming realistic for you into competing at a higher level? And then, like, when did bodybuilding become like the new avenue to reach that? You know, at the end of the day, we're all athletes, we're all competitors, just because we're all competitive people. Yeah. So like, I'm sure you're just trying to fill that competitive void or whatever. But like, at what point did bodybuilding be like the one?
So long story. So I've been training or working out since I was like 12. Because I had scoliosis, so I started training as like a preventive measure for injuries in hockey. Yeah. So as that kind of developed, I started doing sport specific training, kind of going through the ropes with that. And probably once I got to high school, like grade 11, then I started to focus on like, I was going to the gym myself and doing my own thing, more so like a, I wanted to look good type of thing, like bodybuilding, powerlifting, like just going with the boys kind of thing. And I would say like hockey was never really like, it's like I was like, I'm making the NHL.
No,
like, it was never
no.
really like that. Like obviously it was like, that'd be super cool. Mm-hmm. But I knew realistically it was never something that was going to happen. Yeah. But I played up until, I think, second year university. I played junior here. No, it was first year university I played. But I played junior in grade 12 and first year. And I ended up stopping because I got too many concussions. So that was my reason for stopping. And it was just like, at that point, the risk reward just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. I was just kind of still playing to, hang out with the boys. And I obviously loved hockey still, right? Social thing. I love the game. So that's why I was playing. But there was no kind of end goal or like, finish line for it. It was just like I'd probably play junior and then possibly senior if I was still into it. And then if not, just beer league. Sort of thing. Fair enough. But so it was pretty much like the fall that I stopped playing hockey. It was a couple months after that. Obviously, like I had no direction in my training. I was just kind of going to the gym to go to the gym. It was actually Morgan McDonald. He came up to me, and this was like, I think it was around like Christmas or like shortly after Christmas. And he was like, "Man, like you're looking really good. Like you ever thought about doing a show?" And at that point, I no idea what bodybuilding even was. Yeah. Like I just like watched like fitness YouTubers and like that sort of thing. And it was like bodybuilding was like a foreign thing to me. So I was like yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was just this massive guy coming up to me in the gym. I was like
I can't imagine Morgan walking up to me.
I was like
hey.
Yeah. I was in the change room, and we both I don't think either of us had a shirt on. I was like, oh, this is like, what is this guy saying to me now? But anyways, he was super cool about it. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll think about it. And he was like, well, if you're interested, let me know. We'll figure out someone to coach you and stuff like that. And I ended up taking him up on it. Luke started coaching me, and I did a show that spring.
Okay, that was that first year, right?
Yeah, it was that year that I quit hockey. I guess, well, it was technically the following year, but the same, like, I guess, like...
Calendar year,
yeah. But yeah, so, like, that really gave me a direction in my training. You know, I had goals. Obviously, you know how important goals are.
Yeah. In
terms of staying disciplined, motivated, that sort of thing. And then once I competed in my first show, I was like, this is it. Like, and it wasn't even when I competed in my first show that I was like, I love doing this. It was throughout kind of the entire prep. It was sort of like a realization that, like, okay, this is giving me some sort of direction and goal. And like, I feel like we're similar in the sense that, like, when we do something, it's just like, that's our prime focus. Like, we're just going all in on that. Yeah. So it kind of allowed me to do that for something that I already enjoyed. And it's kind of just built from there. And then doing the shows, like, that was like kind of the reward. You know, getting up on stage and showing my hard work. And it was an adrenaline rush too, like being up there, which I hadn't felt in a long time. So yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
that's my story, man.
Yeah, no, actually, like, I was working Iceberg Alley with Luke.
Yeah.
And he was like, you ever think about competing? I was like, no. I'm good, man. That's not my, I have so much respect for what you guys do.
Yeah.
But I see the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
It looks kind of shit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I'm good.
It's a grind for sure, man. But, you know.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah, the stuff, yeah, I have such respect for what you guys can do, but personally, it's,
yeah. No, likewise, man. Likewise.
It'd be what I want to do.
No, and I mean, you've certainly had a taste of it yourself through, you know, your prep for your competitions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, like, it wouldn't be anything, like, extremely foreign to you. It's just, like, another extreme to the dieting aspect.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. Because, yeah, for forever, food for me has just been, like, fuel for training.
Yeah.
Never, like, I need to eat a certain way to look a certain way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they kind of, like, frown upon that coming from, like, a weight sport. Like, they worry about, you know, athlete mental health and, like, looking at, like, people getting so obsessed, like, oh, I missed weight, or, like, I'm not going to make weight, like, I'm fat, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they try to tell you, like, in all the, you know, conferences and meetings we have in the national teams, like, food is fuel.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's true. Like, you know, so many athletes, especially from, like, artistic sports and, like, weight category sports, suffer.
Oh, 100%.
So,
and it's definitely super, like, apparent in bodybuilding. And I know a ton of people have suffered from it. And, like, even I get in my head about it sometimes too. Like, especially going from like looking like I do on the stage, like looking sick, and then like starting to put on more weight like I am now. It's just like, like, what am I doing here? Like, why can't I just look like that all the time? But I feel like you definitely have to be in the right mindset and headspace and kind of have a real good understanding as to why you're doing this and how it's going to benefit you in the future. So in that sense, it's definitely not for everyone. Because, you know, I feel like the whole bodybuilding kind of industry and fitness industry is like frowned upon for that reason. For like people tracking their macros and like, obviously, like, you know, people with eating disorders, that can kind of be like a trigger for them.
Absolutely.
But I mean, we're doing this to reach a certain goal. It's not, you know, obviously we don't judge anyone if they don't track their macros or anything like that. It's more so, you know, it's part of the sport, and it's a huge part of the sport. And the better you are at doing that and being disciplined and strict with that, you know, the better you are going to do in that sport. Yeah,
and I think as long as you guys keep that in mind, that like you're counting your macros, you're doing all this for that goal,
for a reason.
I feel like that'll probably keep you guys from, you know, going down that path of.
It's a slippery slope too,
right?
Like, you know. But yeah, so I think that's a good spot to end off, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was a great chat, man. This is probably been one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
Episodes. Yeah. It was something different, right? I mean, like, I'm sure people watching and listening, they're gonna enjoy it too, because usually we just have on, you know, people who are competing in bodybuilding, people in the fitness industry, that sort of thing. So it's cool to have someone kind of who has a different perspective from that, and who has also competed at a very high level.
No, I definitely get what you're saying. no, it's hopefully the listeners enjoy a nice change of pace.
Oh, 100%, man, 100%. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh,
it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for watching, guys. This was episode 14 of the Barbells Banter podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.